Just been traveling from Tybee Island, so I'm a little bit like, ah. So anyway, so good to see you. I first met Ciara Knight at Moonlight Magnolias, and 2 years ago, was in one of her workshops, and I learned things that I didn't know, and I thought I'd been to every kind of writing workshop there'd been to. So, I asked her to be a speaker, and I'm really excited that she's here. So from Southern Grace to Western Grace, she's a celebrated USA Today bestselling and award-winning author, and is often likened to the heartwarming essence of Hallmark movies, which we all love. And so her narratives have captured the hearts of over 1 million readers, which is the dream, right? Transporting them from the serene Southern landscape to the bold spirit of the West, while exploring love and companionship. And she's also a dedicated mentor and coach, usually utilizing her extensive experience as an author and former acquisitions editor. Wow, can't get any better than that. So with a fervent commitment to empowering emerging writers, she imparts her wisdom and industry insights, assisting them in navigating the publishing landscape. So I'm excited about the two workshops, Core Magnetism, wow, and in storytelling and AI, which I don't know anything about. So welcome, Ciara.
Thank you for having me, everyone. I'm excited to be here. I was, when Maggie asked, I was like, of course, I'll be there. So thank you so much for the invitation. The first one I'm going to be talking about is core magnetism. So I'm going to share my screen if I have the capabilities here. And let me know if everybody can see my screen.
Yes, we can see it. Yes.
Great. Okay. So first of all, we're going to kind of talk about what core magnetism is. So, what is it? It is why readers feel something when they read your books. It's how they connect with your stories and why they enjoy them. So, this is not goal, motivation, and conflict. Hopefully, everybody's working on their GMCs and has taken Deb Dixon and all of that. This is the heartbeats of your story. These are those moments that get readers to connect. It's beyond tropes. It's not what the book is about, but why we feel for it. And we're actually going to do a lot of examples through here because it's easier to understand as you hear examples. And I guess I should ask first, can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, to help us understand what it is, let's first identify some people that we think of that have the it factor. What I mean by that is what makes a person or a character appealing to you? Why do you want to be that person or be next to that person or have that person love you? So can anybody name any like actors or actresses or movie stars that they would think have the it factor?
Denzel Washington.
Very good.
Wonder Woman.
Yes. Girl
God,
power.
yeah. Yeah. hmm
Love that one. Any others?
Well, before I don't know about now, but Angelina Jolie used to be the person I used to love to watch in the flicks.
She definitely has an it factor. Um, some of the old, real, I don't want to say old, some of the classic movie stars like Clark Gable and Audrey Hepburn and John Wayne and Clint Eastwood, I always thought they had the it factor. How about Taylor Swift? Whether you're a Swiftie or not, she's got something, right? We gravitate towards her, whether it's about the drama going on or her music. She has, everybody wants to know something about her. Any of the Hemsworth, I think, have the it factor. So, Chris, Liam, don't care. I'd
Yes.
watch either of them. And it's the person that you would literally sit through 2.5 hours of a movie or read a book for days to be around. So let's, since we're not developing people, we're developing characters. Let's talk about some characters you can think of that might have the it factor. If you can't think of any, that's okay. I can give examples. No? Okay, that's okay.
Characters in books, right?
Yeah, characters in books or movies, but not the actors themselves, the characters.
Eliza Bennett in Pride and Prejudice.
Yes. Why do you think that you're drawn to her?
Because she has Mr. Darcy.
Okay, that's an excellent answer. Okay.
John McClane for me.
I'm sorry, who?
John McClane. Bruce
Okay.
Willis, the Die Hard movies.
Oh, yes. Yes. And why do you
Sherlock.
think that you can watch them for hours?
I just love his snarky sense of humor and I like action movies.
Those are great. Great. Somebody else had another one?
Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. And why do you think you like watching Sherlock Holmes?
Because he figures stuff out.
Yes. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Has anybody watched Happy Days?
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to pick some examples that I thought everybody might know. So, what's the first character you think of that might have the it factor in Happy Days?
The
Unseen.
Fonz.
Fun.
Hey, yep, the Fonz. We kind of we like him because he's popular, right? He's popular series. He's somebody who's kind of the bad boy. Um, but yet you have these little heartbeats in the story that you see him for even more than that. Like when he goes to Mrs. C and you see that interaction, you can tell he just wants to be part of that family. That's a little heartbeat in the story. It might draw you to him even more than just being the bad boy. Um, Indiana Jones. I love him as an example because he has so many heartbeats throughout that. Um, and beyond the fact that it's Harrison Ford, then he was good looking. Um, you know, every man wanted to be Indiana Jones, and every woman wanted to be with Indiana Jones in this um, part of the story. But think back to the opening of Indiana Jones and how he's out there and he's that whip cracking and he succeeds and steals something. And then you see him in the classroom and the girl closes her eyes and she's flirting with him. And this amazing man that's got so much charisma is sweating and dropping things. Like he's not socially prepared for that. And it's a little heartbeat into who he is. And it draws us in a little closer because it makes him more human. Um, he we connect with him because have you ever wanted something so bad that you did everything you could to get it? That's something that we can connect to. There's got to be something in our lives. Let me guess, getting your novel published. You know, you can take that emotion and you connect with him on his desire to get somewhere. And he doesn't try to fit in. He just is the hero of the story. He doesn't try to be something he's not. And we appreciate that about him. How about Captain Jack Sparrow? Does anybody think he has the it factor?
Yes,
So,
definitely.
yes, awesome. So, when you look at him, you just think, well, he's charismatic, he's fun. So you have to dig a little deeper. And with him, he yearns for independence and he's all about the adventure. How many of us have sat there looking at your computer thinking, or dealing with life every day and thinking, oh, I would love to escape? Well, yeah, we want to read books so we can escape, right? He provides that escapism. When he wants his Black Pearl ship back, you want him to get his ship back. You care about him because of all these little moments in the story. So I'm going to give you an example of a moment in a story. Everybody has heard of Gone with the Wind, right? Okay. Clark Gable or Brett Butler is at the bottom of the stairs and he looks up at Scarlett and he gives that grin. Every woman wants a man to grin at her like he did to Scarlett. It is that heartbeat that makes you fall in love with him, that you want to continue watching him. It's that little tidbit that we connect with. Um, it doesn't always have to be somebody who's pretty or has to be sweet. Think about Beauty and the Beast. It's a trope, but it's those little moments where he showed her the library because that's what she loved. That's a heartbeat. That's core magnetism. That's what draws us in. Um, so it's different for every person. That's why we have so many heartbeats in our story, because this one may connect with somebody, but this one may connect with somebody else. Um, so we're going to talk about how to make a reader feel. So beyond the trope, tropes are, do I need to move the thing over for you guys? I don't know if that's showing or not.
Yeah, it's showing in the center for us.
Oh, okay. I don't know how to get it to move.
No, I mean, good. It's showing main screen.
It does show the main screen. Okay, good. So beyond tropes, tropes are what's going on in your story. Core magnetism is how we feel. So beyond the trope enemies to lovers, we might look into the aspect of healing a family rivalry or saving a loved one from death, pulling off heroic feats, proving worthy, deserving of admiration and love. Those are things that are the heartbeats of your story. So I have two different stories I'm going to tell just to make sure that people really kind of see what I'm talking about, because core magnetism is sort of an upper level concept. So I'm going to tell you one that's sort of trope driven, and then I'm going to tell you one with some heartbeats in it. Okay. So here's the short little, and these are not eloquent. They're designed to be simplistic so that we focus on what's important. So this is kind of the trope driven short little tell. Jane hates Drew because her parents told her that the family is evil and steals their chickens and crops because they are too lazy to work. She catches Drew stealing, but before she can scream, he says he's starving. So she sees him as the savior of his family. Okay? So it talks about the saving of a family member, right? It's kind of tropey. Do you really connect with that though? I mean, do you feel anything? Probably not much. So here's the story told with more heartbeats, and we're going to go over it. Jane catches Drew stealing food from their shed and sees how her parents were right. He's shoeless and his feet are covered in mud. She thinks he's as dumb as her parents said, but he explains that he doesn't know how to swim. So to get across the river, he has to walk 5 miles to get to the shed to cross the bridge. He hands the food back to her and they walk out. She follows him and notices the fence is fixed. He nods and says, "My family is starving and my father was injured and can't work. I exchanged labor for food." She questions her parents have told her what her parents have told her and walks toward the bridge. A scream echoes from the river. He doesn't hesitate. Drew runs toward the screams. Jane struggles through the thicket, ripping her new dress. Her mother is going to be furious at her. By the time she reaches the river, Drew is holding onto a branch while pulling her brother from the water, struggling to stay afloat, bobbing and choking on the water. So what do you think some of those little heartbeats were in that? And did you relate to that more than you did the first one? Okay, can anybody name any of the little heartbeats about it?
Drew is willing to work for food and he's not lazy.
That is one of them exactly. Can anybody see another one?
He's willing to walk 5 miles.
Yep.
He has to.
How about the fact that he doesn't know how to swim, but he jumped in the river to save her brother? He sacrifices himself for others. But there's actually another little hint in there that most people don't catch, so I'm going to call it out. At the beginning, she says how her parents said that he was stupid. Well, this boy is in the river holding onto a branch, showing his level of intelligence by not just jumping in, but he's found a way to rescue the brother without drowning himself. These are the little heartbeats that make our heroes and heroes worthy of our attention and worthy of their happily ever after. Does that clarify it a little bit more on what it is? Okay, great. So I'm going to go over some stuff here. So first screen is about the tropes. This is a Christmas story written a couple of years ago. Can a young boy losing his sight help his mom see love and Christmas in a new light? The tropes are small town romance, friends to lovers, holiday romance, grumpy sunshine or lone wolf looks after a child, the broken hero, mama bear, and opposites attract. Now, these are great for algorithms and Amazon and things like that because it'll trigger and have people come and look at it. But what's going to get them to buy the book are more of those key moments, the heartbeats, the core magnetism. So in this story, um, this young boy is going blind and her mother is on her own, and she wants to give him the most beautiful Christmas so that he'll remember it the rest of his life, because it might be his last Christmas to see it. And she spends all this time running around and doing everything. So I'm showing all this in the story by showing the cozy small town. You see these little heartbeats of the small town. It shows the snow falling, it shows the warm fire, it shows the interaction of the townspeople. There's all these little heartbeats that go through the story showing this. And she's being welcomed into the community. Family reunited. This is shown at the end of the story. So the little boy has been being trained because he's going blind. And so he's learning how to get around without his vision. Well, there is a whiteout storm, and the kids were at the park and they can't get back. And all the parents are trying to find them. And it's the boy who's going blind who leads them all back safely. It's a retelling of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And so they earn being reunited, and she learns that her son doesn't need her to fix everything for him, that he's capable of doing it for himself. So you're showing this through these little heartbeats. Holiday, you're showing the Christmas lights twinkling. You're letting the reader feel the warmth of an embrace. You are letting them smell the cinnamon and the cocoa, and showing them making food and things like that, because that's the type of story it is. This is what draws these type of readers in. Forced out of your comfort zone. The hero in this story is ex-military, doesn't, he's kind of a fish out of water. He came home because his mother needed him, and he was only there for a short time. And he helps this little boy and the mom cope with things. And you see all these moments, these tender moments of this big, strong guy helping with this little boy. Well, let's just face it, a lot of women like that, because that's why a lot of books sell with a man holding a baby or a man with a child. It evokes a feeling in somebody to see that. Facing past mistakes. Anybody who's ever had to face a past mistake, if they read about that, they instantly connect with it. They instantly are like, oh, I remember when I did this. Oh, I was so embarrassed. I wish I could have done that different, but I learned from it. Now you're reading a character who's been through something similar, and you can relate to them. You can connect with them. Facing your greatest fear. Everybody has a fear, right? I mean, we all do, but it may be irrational. My biggest fear in life was losing a child, like being out. I was tested with a little boy who had sensory integration disorder, and he was a flight risk. One day I'm in Target, and I had herniated 3 discs on my back. I was 9 months pregnant and had my toddler with me. He tries to get away. I'm on the ground. I've got a hold of his ankle trying to keep him with me. He gets away. My panic is beyond belief because I don't know where my child is. If I read a story anywhere where a child is lost, I'm instantly going to feel something because of my own personal experience. Child wants a dad. Anybody who's from a divorced family or has struggled as a single parent or knows somebody who's done this, watching a child try to win over a man into his life or wanting their mommy to marry a daddy would instantly connect with that. Losing a part of ourselves. In this case, the little boy was going blind. It can be emotional or it can be physical, but if we've ever lost something in our lives or a part of ourselves, we can relate to that. Do you have any questions on this example? Am I making any sense?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure. It's kind of hard on Zoom, not seeing everybody. So, okay. So now how do we make readers connect with our stories? We know how to make them feel something. How do we make them connect with things? This was a USA Today best-selling historical romance. It was a 7-book series. It won some awards. It says it took the burning of Atlanta to break up 7 sisters. So you know this is going to be somebody leaving their family. Some of the tropes used were marriage of convenience, which is very common in that genre, enemies to lovers, historical romance or historical Western romance, grumpy sunshine, the broken hero, family love, and a strong heroine. So those are all the tropes. This is why people might, or what the book is about. But the heartbeats of the book, the things that you might want to show in your blurb or talk about, but definitely show in your story, it's a story of survival. This woman leaves Marietta, Georgia, and travels to Kansas to marry her cousin in hopes of bringing her six sisters along because they've been left destitute after the Civil War. Well, she gets there and her cousin's dead. And there's another guy who inherited the farm, but it's a failing farm, it's a failing ranch. So she's also facing hardships because here she is. The guy doesn't want her there, but she has rights to the land because she's family. They try to fight over the land. She's got blisters on her hands. She's working the ranch. She's Indians come. She's hiding in the fields while they go by. She is living in a dugout with, you know, rain coming through, and there's just so many struggles for her. So she's learning how to make her own way in life. So how many of us can think back to like right after you graduated high school, you have that moment. I have two college kids, so that's why this comes up. They're like, what do I do? They are so stressed over what should I major in? What should I get? Who should I be when I get older? There are so many instances in our life that we can relate to, how to make our own way. In the industry of publishing right now, it's really a crazy business. You've got to figure out who you want to be as an author. Um, Anxiety at facing the unknown. I know many people don't like facing the unknown. In life, I do not like the unknown. In adventure, in travel, I love the unknown. So it's kind of situational specific for me. So if somebody's nervous about going on a trip, I'm not going to connect with that as well as I am what's going to happen. I just had a test result and I don't know if I have cancer yet. That's going to be something that you're going to connect with if you've ever been through that. Family politics. Oh, goodness. We all have family politics in one way or another. That sister, that uncle, that mother who's ailing, who has become a little bit stubborn and hard to deal with, and or judgmental. How do you sit at that Thanksgiving table and deal with that constant, nipping at you? If you see a scene where a mom is putting down her daughter because of her weight, and you had that in your life, you're going to relate to that. Loved one in danger. I think we can all relate to that. I was in a car crash 2 years ago that my son was driving, and I still can't ride in a car with my son. All I see is that car hitting his side of the car. And I just went with him the other day, and he's like, Mom, don't watch. Just close your eyes and sit and be quiet. Because everything is like, well, if I read a story about a car crash with a kid in it, I'm going to instantly connect with that story. Doing the right thing. We all struggle with doing the right thing. We sometimes it's more complicated than when we were children where you knew right from wrong. Let's say you have a friend who is doing something and they're not going to be good at it, but they're going to do it anyway, and they're going to have to face all of this hardship. And they're like, what do you think? Ooh, what's the right thing to do? Do you try to steer them in another direction? Do you tell them they're not going to be able to achieve this? Or do you support them even though you know the outcome? These are, doing the right thing isn't always so clear. So reading a story where you're watching somebody struggle with this, if you have, you're going to relate to it. Sacrificing everything for love. Family and heroine. It's when you are willing to give up everything. Let's say that I have to give up my writing career to go back to a full-time job because my husband's injured and he can't work anymore. Would I do it? In a heartbeat, because that's what my family needs. So I would relate to that. Protecting his woman. A lot of women love stories where the alpha male protects the lady. Now, I know in modern times, a lot of times that's not as popular, but it is something that many women connect with. Wounded main character. If you have somebody wounded and see somebody caring for them, if you've ever had to care for a loved one, you're going to connect with that immediately. It's a beautiful moment that you should show. A fixer-upper for her home, she finds if you've ever had to restore a home or if you've ever had to work on something in your house, you relate to that. It can be it can be a hardship at times. And then he changes for her. He's this guy who is not the right fit at all. He's a bad boy. And then all of a sudden, she helps him see world in a different light and he changes for her. Um, in real life, I wouldn't trust that, but in a story, isn't it beautiful? Do you guys have any questions on these specific heartbeats or connections? No? Okay. How about reader enjoyment? We all want to make sure that our readers enjoy what we have to offer. So in this case, this is Spring in Sweetwater County, and it was written several years ago. Spring in Sweetwater County is a beautiful second chance romance about love that will stand the test of time, even for 40 years. Love is in the air this spring. Some of the tropes are small town, second chance romance, coming home, PTSD, wounded warrior, and strong heroine. Now, strong heroines are very popular right now. So that's always a great trope. Now, moving beyond the tropes, we're going to go into the core magnetism of the story. Um, so this is a story set 40 years after the Vietnam War. The heroine believes that he was dead and now he returns. That, if you've ever had a long lost love, or if that's something you connect to or feel, you're going to enjoy reading their coming back together, what's been going on. A lost romance returned. Can you imagine that moment, that first moment when she sees him walk through that door? That's a big moment. Finding his way back to his true love. So he came home after the war, 2 years after. He was a POW, and he returned 2 years after and found out she had married his best friend. And so he swore his family to secrecy and he left. He was a doctor and he moved to Miami, and she never knew that he still lived because he knew he'd break up their marriage. Well, her husband had passed away and her son was having a problem. And anyway, this gentleman comes back to the town and finds his way back to her. They both have always loved each other, and he sacrificed living in his small town to give her the life he thought she wanted. Forgiveness. The heroine of this story not only found out that his family knew, but found out that her best friend had discovered the truth a few years ago and didn't tell her. She has to learn how to forgive her best friend, who happens to be the town gossip, the man who never came home, the family who's deceased that lied to her. They can't be together until she works through that forgiveness. If anybody's felt betrayed in their life, they'll relate to that. They will connect with it. They will enjoy seeing her have that happily ever after that maybe they didn't. Healing and redemption. There's always a great feeling and enjoyment in seeing somebody healing and redeeming themselves. He was able to show her why he didn't come home, and she was able to realize why he did what he did. Deserved happily ever after. So have you ever read a book and they have a happily ever after and you put the book down and you've been like, that was good. Has anybody ever experienced that? Yeah. Okay. The reason you didn't feel more at the end of that book was because they didn't really deserve their ending. They didn't go through all their trials and tribulations to earn that happily ever after. When you read a book and they have to fight for their happily ever after, those are the books that you think about days or weeks or months after you finish them. That's because they have these heartbeats in their book. It's because you feel, you connect, you enjoy their stories. watching a small town gossip reunite her friends. Well, here's this flawed character who caused a problem, and she's the one that brings them back together. It's it has some comic relief. You can connect to making a mistake and trying to make it right. Um, and it's entertaining. People like watching it. Are there any questions on this one? No? Okay. Well, here are some other examples in some literature.
About the disturbing the happily ever after.
Yes.
Sometimes you can go too, or the books I've read can go too far where the conflict doesn't feel resolved too. So it's a balance, isn't it?
Yes. So, and I think sometimes when they overdo the conflict, they, in the end, rush through them solving what the conflict was about. So they really aren't deserving of their happily ever after. It's sort of like author intrusion, where they're like, I really enjoyed writing two-thirds of this book, but now I need it to end in 5,000 words. So we're going to get through this really fast and happily ever after. Yay. So I think that's where a lot of times that happens is authors spend so much time making sure that their goals, motivation, and conflict are just there. But they don't think about the resolution and allowing the reader to enjoy the resolution. Does that make sense? And does that answer your question?
Yep, that helps.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a comment on that. I just finished a book. I won't mention which one it was. Somebody gave it to me as a gift, and it was historical romance. And all through the book, it's like it was very well written. And I enjoyed the writing and the plot until like you said, to about like halfway through, and then all of a sudden it's like the heroine is, of course she's poor compared to the hero who's a duke, and she's very adamant about not being his mistress. That's like she's got too much pride. And then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, it felt like the author was like, oh, what am I going to do now? So this heroine, like, she's staying in his place, forced proximity. Um, she just like goes into his room, takes off all her clothes, takes off all his clothes. It's like, wait a minute, I just totally lost respect for her. And it was to me, it was an example of, I mean, of course, there's a happily ever after, but they didn't deserve it. It was like he was confused. He's like, "Oh, so you do want to be my mistress? Okay, well, I'll sign up to paperwork. Let's sign stuff." It's like, oh my God.
A lot of times that happens because the goal isn't strong enough for the entire story.
Oh.
And they decide, okay, now I'm going to switch goals.
Hmm.
And it's not well motivated. And if your character's actions are not well motivated, then it leaves the reader feeling empty. It doesn't work. So I think sometimes this core magnetism helps you because if you are thinking about your goal of your character throughout the entire story, what little moments can you have two-thirds of the way of the book that still, let's say they've gone through all this. How does that still relate to my GMC? Is it working still? Is my goal still strong? Is the motivation showing through this action, through this moment that drives the plot forward? But not only the plot, the characterization, you want to know that, I mean, let's face it, characters sell books. It's less about anything else. If you care about your characters, it sells books. Um, I've read some books that were not well written, but they were amazing. The story was there. I judge a lot of contests, and I'll tell you, I'll spend more time on a book that has a great story than a book that's well written with no story. You just, you want to help that author who just doesn't know how to write it yet, but has a great story. So, um, do you guys have any other questions on that? No? Okay. Pride and Prejudice I chose because it seems like every author I talk to talks about Pride and Prejudice. So the trope might be enemies to lovers. And one of the core magnets is the idea that a hero will do anything for a woman, even if he doesn't think he'll win her. Now think about that. Why does that have more impact than just saying, you know, a man who loves her? Because he's going to have to fight for her love. He's going to have to earn the right to be with her. So you're going to feel for him. You're going to feel for him making that extra effort, even though he doesn't think he's ever going to get her. So it's selfless. He's doing it out of love. Does that make sense? Okay. Has anybody here read Fourth Wing yet? Yes. Okay. All right. I'm actually considering teaching a class based on this book because, and I hope that you don't disagree with me because it may not be your core magnets, but there were so many little moments in there that drove readers through it. I'm not talking about the writing. I'm talking specifically about the characters and the story and how they related. So the tropes for this book is enemies to lovers, dysfunctional family, overcoming adversity. This story basically was written with the three-act structure in front of them, with core magnetism dots along them, with the GMC written for every chapter, and it's just flawlessly executed in that sense. I'm not talking about the book itself, but I'm saying in that sense. In the very first, I think it's the second scene, because the first scene they kind of have a setup. The second scene, this girl suffers from some sort of, it's not brittle bone disease, but maybe the person who also read it, Lee Miles, can say, but she had all these physical problems, okay? She's forced into joining the war college and she has to walk across the parapet. No, yeah, the parapet. Sorry, am I saying that right? I think so. Yes. So, top of the castle, it's pouring rain. The whole deal is if you don't make it across, you fall off, you die. If you make it across, you're worthy of this war college. Okay. When they reach that point, the girl in front of her has old shoes and can't walk across the parapet. She's going to fall and die. So the heroine takes off one of her shoes and gives it to her so that she can have traction to go across. Oh, Harry Potter meets Hunger Games. Yes, Lee, absolutely. Oops, I skipped ahead. Sorry. So yeah, I mean, they're saying that that book basically has 5 best-selling books written into one. But when she hands that boot over and helps her across, this is a cutthroat business. You kill each other in this war college, okay? This girl sacrifices one of her boots for somebody else. It is that little heartbeat that shows who she is. That's what I mean by a heartbeat, by a core magnetism. Here's this broken girl who's really strong, fearless yet fearful with a heart. So some more examples. Sorry, I keep hitting the wrong button. Some more examples are swept away from a boring life to a life of luxury. Kind of a Cinderella tale going from hardship to lack of luxury. The bully who really loves you. In other words, a guy who doesn't love anybody else and is mean to everybody else but loves you. A lot of readers connect with that. Most popular guy chooses you. That's a big trope that you can expand into a core magnetism because you can show how this happens. A wounded character. Well, like I said, Violet from Fourth Wing, she has this physical disability, and yet she conquers so much. That's something that a lot of people can relate to. There are so many people out there. I mean, I have an autoimmune. I know several people that have an autoimmune. I have a son who's legally blind in one eye. I mean, I know so many people who can relate to a character who has some sort of challenge. The makeover. That's a popular thread in stories that is just that extra little sugar on top that we might enjoy. Cinderella is the ultimate makeover story. True love match. Yeah, fated mates is a trope, but a true love match is 2 people who really belong together for many reasons that are shown through different heartbeats in the story. That is a core magnetism. That's what brings them together. Sorry for the language, badass woman, just a strong heroine who can take on so much, yet she needs a little vulnerability too. Don't forget that. But watching a woman succeed in life is very drawing to many, many women right now. Comebacks. Anybody who's fallen down and had to make it back can relate to that. Absolutely. I think that's it for the presentation. So I can do any questions you guys like. I have some, I think that, love triangles, the fixer upper. I have some others out there, but does everybody understand what core magnetism is based on what we've gone over?
So it's basically what it's sort of like universal fantasy in a way, but different.
Mhm. Yeah, so it is universal fantasy, but what it is I like you to think about your book as being a living, breathing entity, okay? So going from the beginning of the book to the end of the book, you're going to have heartbeats throughout your life. It's all these little heartbeats that you connect with your readers. So core magnetism is like universal fantasy in the fact that it is how you feel, how you enjoy, how you connect with your characters. But it's not about having one thing in your story to draw readers in. It's about those little heartbeats throughout the book that really draw readers in. They need to work together to support your story structure, your goals, motivation, and conflict to show and connect and feel with your readers throughout your book. Like you said, halfway through the book, if you change and you're showing these characters in a different way, it doesn't work. So let's say you might show them saving a little boy in a river at the beginning, but at the end, he won't put his feet in the water because there's a crab. It just doesn't mesh well. It's a poor example, but do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I do. Because if you pick up a book and you get halfway through and there's nothing, there's no core magnetism to make you keep reading, right?
Exactly. And I think it goes a little deeper than GMC. It's about the feeling behind the GMC. It's beyond those just technical definitions. That's why I use heartbeat as the example. It's literally how you feel, how you connect with, and it has to be a constant little. And then throughout your story, you might do ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum, ba bum. You know what I mean? Like it's got to fit the plot of your story as you're working it to evoke that level of emotion you're looking for.
So
So
when
I
you're,
have a
go ahead,
question.
Maggie.
So I'm a plotter, so I plot a scene before I write it. I know what I want to have happen. I know the goal, motivation, and conflict. And I've been trying to work in like the universal fantasy or what you're talking about, the core magnetism. Um, so basically you what you want to work into is a heartbeat moment into each scene.
If you
Hope.
can do that, yes. And you can build on that. Like think about it when you have your visceral reactions in your book. You'll have a little visceral reaction. You'll have a big visceral reaction. So you're going to have a different moment at the beginning when a guy might take a little child's hand to help them over a puddle. Whereas in the climactic scene, he's rescuing him from a car crash. Does that make sense? Like you're seeing his level of commitment throughout there, but you're connecting with that little sweet moment and that big moment. Just make sure that your heartbeats match what's going on in your story.
So my question, it was very similar to Maggie's. Do you figure out what your heartbeats are in every scene before you actually write the scene? Or just based on your experience as an author, you find yourself creating them as, oh, there's my heartbeat. Oh, there it is.
So at this point, yes, I more see it as I write it. So right now I'm working on a 12 book uh, family saga cowboy romance series. And so what happens is the first book, I'll just catch them as I go. And when I do edit, I make sure it's it's throughout the book. I don't necessarily think about it as I'm writing it. However, in book 2, I'm already starting to plot out certain heartbeats because it connects with the first book. So that's how you draw readers in further to buy your next book, is when you're in a series and you have secondary characters and you show that little heartbeat from the first book and the second book. So like 2 of my characters earn their happily ever after in the book 1. Well, their wedding is in book 2, and they're going to show the preparation. So you're blending these characters in and showing the heartbeats, and they're almost connecting between the new characters and the old characters, and then moving on. Again, it's a family saga, so it's not necessarily a category contemporary romance. You know what I mean? You have to make sure that your moments fit what you're writing. It's very genre based, it's very length based on how much you can put in your story. You can also build on your heartbeat. So in, let's say in the first chapter, you have that little moment. Well, it might lead into a little bit bigger moment in chapter 2. And that's how you layer it in your story. Do you see how that kind of differs a little bit from universal fantasy and the fact that yeah, okay. Because I don't want to copy universal fantasy, but yes, it's part of this. Any other questions? I'm happy to answer anything you have. Okay. I don't know what time I was supposed to be done. I think 11:40 or something like that, or 11:35, but I made it.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much.
No worries. I'm always happy to answer questions. I know that we're still doing the AI for authors, but if you have any questions about core magnetism, I'll put my email in the chat. You're welcome to email me. I answer emails up to 3 weeks after a class, anytime. And then later on, if you send it, just allow me some more time to answer them. So, sound good?
Thank you.
Great. You want to let's take a 5-minute break and come back at 11:40? It's actually a couple
Sounds good to
minutes.
me.
It's like 7-minute break.
Sounds
7 minutes,
good.
y'all. Set your timers. Be 11:40 back in the chair. Thank you, Ciara.
so
That was
much.
wonderful.
So good. I hope
I feel
everybody
very
learned
inadequate. I
something.
need to go back and look at stuff.
I'm still cold. It's colder in here than it is though. Yes, I'm like, oh, I could have probably brought a sweater, but I get hot everywhere, so.
It's funny, when you were asking a question, I was trying to see who was talking up there. It's talking, it's not happening.
Oh. I think I like characters that fail a lot too. I think that's why I like Jack Sparrow so much. I mean, he got it wrong throughout that movie, but you liked him anyway.
Yeah. I mean, interesting, they're right, because like, you know, I've been reading pretty much romantic suspense for 3 years now. And if a seal failed, that would be bad.
I mean, it was bad for Jack Sparrow.
That's true.
And he's funny too. But I mean, Spike is one of those characters from Buffy the Vampire Slayer that always really appealed to me. But
My favorite
he was
is
dragged all through the mud, right?
like he was. And then it changed for him also, because he started off like bad. And
But that was fun too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
my favorite Spike moment is during the musical episode when he started singing and he was like, son of a bitch.
he was just funny as honestly, I think the moment I kind of that at least sticks with me is when she's having a rough family moment. I think her mom dying, whatever. It's during that arc. And he comes to kill her, but she's crying on the porch. and he sits down and he just awkwardly takes the back. And it is the sweetest thing.
Yeah.
You know, he's got like this shotgun where he came to like shoot her. And I'm like, how is that like super? And she's like, why is this guy touching me, like reacting? But I'm like, that whole scene just stuck with me.
I was just thinking recently that I needed to do a Buffy rewatch.
I love Buffy. Yeah. I haven't watched it again for a while, but
I mean, it was the late 90s, so things like I don't remember there being any, like, I just rewatched Moonlighting, and today's standards, it's awful. It's awful. The sexual harassment was.
well, knowing some of the stuff that came out about Joss Whedon and how he treated
Oh,
his actresses
yeah.
makes it a little harder to rewatch. So I've been avoiding rewatching it. But I mean, even the Cordelia character, he had a way of putting these heartbeat moments in his show that even if it doesn't hold out up, like from all, you know, 30 years ago now, you know,
Yeah.
it still had those heartbeats that you remember, and it's like, I don't know, there's something about it. I think for Spike too, it helped when it flashed back to when he was William before, and he was just this awkward, writes poetry, and he's like, oh.
William the Bloody.
Oh, he becomes.
So funny.
But yeah, I find it interesting that most of the characters I'm really drawn to are more flawed, like heavily flawed characters that fail a lot, but still get their AGM. You know,
Yeah.
well, he didn't, but
Well, you're right. I didn't remember the ending, but he was happy at the end. I mean, he was willing to do what he needed to do.
sort of.
Yeah. Such a good show.
It
I
is
had
a
a-
good show.
I had a friend in law school at the time, and she didn't have a no, she had a VCR, but she was in law school, and she didn't want to record the episodes because she was tempted to watch them. So she had me record them for her, and then anytime she was on like winter break or whatever, I would give her all the videotapes so she could watch.
They had a podcast called Buffering the Vampire Slayer, where they watched an episode every week. One was a fan, one had never seen it before,
Oh,
and then they
fun.
talked through every episode. And I really enjoyed, like, because I'd seen it so many times that it was kind of a different way to almost see it again, but through somebody else's eyes by just listening. They also made like little music and stuff about every episode and
So
stuff.
fun.
So it was a really good podcast. I ended up enjoying like listening to every episode just because it was nostalgic but so different.
Yeah. Have you ever tried rewatching the X-Files?
Only a few episodes.
Yeah.
They don't hold up as well. But
They're so
some of my
exciting
favorite
started.
episodes do. I
Yes.
think there was one where that guy stretches his hand through like
Oh,
different
yes.
I can rewatch that one and I'm there. But the ones that were more almost like politics based, like government based, I can't watch it all.
The one with the roaches.
I don't think I've watched it.
Oh my
I must have
gosh. I think the episode is called like War of the Coprophages, or like, which is probably like the scientific name for roach or something like that. That one, and
There was one in the woods where they went off in the woods and they had these little firefly looking bugs that like killed everybody.
oh, I remember that too. Oh,
That
did
one
they kill
really
them or
stuck
did they
with
like
me.
turn them into zombies? Or
They
something?
they cocooned them and then sucked out everything. But I remember that one. So I remember the ones that are almost like single episodes
Yeah.
of some paranormal
And not
thing.
the conspiracy theory episodes that come back.
But that one really stuck with me. And I think again because they had those moments where they were trying to save each other, just like the guy stretched and was tapping.
Let's do the vent. I remember that. There was another episode that I really loved where they were on a
Oh, it locks me outside.
they were on a
All right, everyone, welcome back. Welcome back. It's 11:40. Get to hear about AI. I'm excited about this. I need to know more.
Awesome. Well, if you guys are, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I didn't know if Maggie had an intro for this one or if we're just going to jump in.
I think Ciara's better off explaining it.
That's fine. I'm good. Okay, I'm
This
gonna
is all
share.
new to me, but I'm excited to learn. Everything's gonna be new.
It's It's an evolving market for sure. But I'm going to start this. Can everybody see the screen? My screen?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm actually super excited about this topic. This is an entry level, not an advanced level, but I'm going to go on a little bit of intermediate track here. So I know AI is super controversial, so I just wanted to explain exactly what I use or what AI is for right now and what it is. So AI works by machine learning to generate text design to mimic human writing. This is not Terminator. AI software is trained on massive data sets, often all off of text and code, but this is all it is. It's data. It does not create beyond its data source. Does that make sense? Okay. So why do we care about using it? Well, first of all, as I mentioned, what is it? It's not human. So just know that, okay? Um, we're going to cover in this why should we care about AI, different AI resources for authors, which platform for what task, benefits, uses, cons, brainstorming and marketing using AI, editing using AI, and AI limitations. Um, so why do we care about AI? Why should we use it as an author? Well, it can complete tasks in minutes that take us hours. So talk about time management in our career. Use it for brainstorming. How many people, how many people wait on crit partners to bounce ideas off of? Sometimes it's nice when you're in the midst of something to just have somebody to brainstorm with. You can also use it for editing and for marketing. You can also find out how your book compares to other comps. And there's a lot more that it can teach you, actually. So this is a fraction of what's on the market right now that you can utilize for your writing career. Now, I've tested many, many, many of these, and there are so many companies even sprouting out now that have improved versions. And this is just a rapidly changing environment. So I've decided for the sake of this course and the time, excuse me, allotted to us, we are going to concentrate on two of them, ChatGPT Plus and AutoCrypt. Now, many of you might use Pro Writing Aid. My personal preference is AutoCrit. A lot of my author friends use Pro Writing Aid. They are somewhat similar. But you need to decide what works best for you because each program offers a different opportunity. So we're going to look at the benefits, uses, and cons of ChatGPT. So one of the benefits to ChatGPT over some others is that it has unlimited word count and it's only $20 a month. That's for the ChatGPT Plus. ChatGPT 3 is free, but I find ChatGPT 4 Plus is better. A lot of companies charge you per the word, or you have a maximum of 30,000 words, and you think, well, I'm not going to use it that much. Wait till I show you what it can do, and I'll ask you that. Some of the ideal uses for ChatGPT specifically, it's ideal for idea generation, outlining, brainstorming, and word choice. So how would you guys like to dig into ChatGPT? And I'll show you ChatGPT and how it works. Sound good? All right, so I'm going to switch over my screen here. Sorry, I got to move this out of the way so I can see my, there we go. All right. So there are several different, oh, I should mention the cons for ChatGPT, sorry. You have to master your prompts to get what you want out of ChatGPT. And you can't modify prompts, which I'll show you. So basically, you're regenerating the prompt. Okay, let me rephrase that. You can modify some prompts and not others. So when it gets to editing responses, it gets a little technical. So that's the con to ChatGPT. So the first thing we're going to look at is a character prompt. Let's say you want to brainstorm a character. I've already done this because I wasn't sure about internet and time. So I didn't want you to sit here and wait for 2 minutes while things were generated. So I wrote in here, I'm writing a women's fiction novel, and the main character is 50 years old, and she is getting a divorce. She's struggling with her new life. Can you help me create a character profile detailing some of the problems she might be facing and other characteristics about her? So that's my prompt here. This is what ChatGPT did. Gave her name, age, occupation, location, marital status. Um, it generated a background. So it just came up with Emma grew up in a small town and moved to the city for college, where she met her husband. They were married for 25 years. She's dedicated her life to her family and her career, often putting her own dreams on hold. Emma is well respected in her profession and known for her compassionate approach to teaching. I'm reading that for a reason. I'll show you down lower. Her appearance kind of told her about shoulder length brown hair that she started to let go naturally gray. She has a warm smile, but carries a lot of her stress in her shoulders. Like it just kind of gives you ideas of her appearance. Again, brainstorming. You don't need to use any of this. It's about brainstorming. Her personality, kind-hearted, empathetic, deeply introspective. She's always been the stabilizer in her family, offering support wherever it's needed. However, she struggles with asserting her own needs and has a tendency to avoid confrontation. Emma is intelligent and loves literature, often quoting her favorite authors to make a point. So you see how there's just little details that you could take out of this if you wanted to. Then it gives you some current problems that she might be facing: emotional struggles, financial uncertainty, relationships, career satisfaction, dating and social life, self-discovery. Then it goes into goals and aspirations. All of this is from that little prompt I just gave it. Sorry, guys, my husband texting me, sorry. Goals and aspirations, finding independence, pursuing passion projects, building new relationships, and self-improvement. So again, all I told it was I had a 50-year-old woman who just got divorced and I'm writing a women's fiction, and it gave me all of this. It's only going to give you what you asked for. So let's say I wanted Emma Thompson, her profile, to the fact that she has no job and she's been a stay-at-home mom. So I asked it to regenerate it. And it did the same thing, but now it gave it a different background. It even changed her appearance, changed her personality a little bit. Do you see how you can pull these things out and you can sit here and you can regenerate this as much as you want to? Like, give me something you might want to change. Anybody, just throw something in and I'll show you.
She's introverted.
Okay. So see, I just said make him an introvert and create her character profile again. So it's going to go back through there and talk about her background. It's going to change who she was because it's going to show you why she's the way she is. Her appearance, her personality, introspective, thoughtful, and observant, often notices details that others overlook. Because she's an introvert, she's going to be looking for those things instead of always talking. So do you see how I'm not telling you that you're going to come here and generate who your character is. I'm saying you can use this as brainstorming and inspiration, like you would with your critique partner when you're trying to develop a story or a character. So do you guys have any questions about a character prompt? No? Do you find that interesting that you can come here and brainstorm about a character if you needed to?
Yes.
And that's the
Okay.
paid version, right?
Yeah, this one's $20
That's the
a month.
paid version, right?
Yeah, this is the paid version, $20 a month. You can play around with ChatGPT free, and I would advise you to do that to kind of get used to it and see what you come up with. So on an advanced course, I'd go over how you can do your own personal ChatGPT to train it to your voice, which we'll get into why that would be a necessary thing that you could utilize. I don't
We took class.
Okay. Well, I knew I had 50 minutes and I had talked to a few people, and I have a tendency of over teaching. So I usually have like 2 hours of information to fit in 50 minutes. So I actually had two people strip my classes and make them closer in. So I did not overwhelm everybody with AI. So, but anyway, that's just a character prompt. Let's say you want to write a World War II, or how about a Vietnam War romance? Okay. I'm writing a Vietnam War romance, ChatGPT. Can you tell me some of the key events that happened during this time frame? Look at this. Now, I'm going to say two things on this. This is fantastic, but what do I do with this information? Do I just automatically put it in my book? No,
Verified.
I verify it. Yes. I've yet to find an error with ChatGPT, but that doesn't mean that it won't happen. I also, I'm using this as an idea generator. So I'm going to take off of Tonkin incident, if I said that correctly, and go research it and see how I can bring that into my world or if it fits in my world. But the thing about searching on Google is sometimes you don't know what to search for. And that's how I use ChatGPT. Like, I just don't know where to start. Well, yes, now I do. I go to ChatGPT and I tell it what I want and it spits out ideas for me. So I just thought that was really cool. So any questions about a fact prompt? That one's pretty straightforward. No? Okay. Feel free to interrupt me anytime. I don't mind.
I have a question.
Sure.
How 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 do you know, like, if you want a fact prompt or a character idea or a plot idea? What do you?
So that's just how I categorize them. It can be anything. For the sake of the class, I wanted to show the different features or the different methods you could use in ChatGPT. You can research anything you want to, brainstorm anything you want to. These are examples of some things that you can do. Does that answer your question?
So it can give you like plot ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. It's all about brainstorming is how I use ChatGPT. Okay. So let's say you want to do a correspondence and I have a newsletter and I need to generate, I write letters to my readers in every single newsletter every Friday. And sometimes I'm running short on time. So in this case, I have, can you generate a letter to readers for my newsletter in a sweet and uplifting tone, telling them about my new contemporary cowboy romance family saga, Charming the Grumpy Cowboy? And this is what it came up with. I don't know if you guys can read that or not. Do you want me to read some of it to you or can you read it? Read some of it to you? Okay.
Yes, yes.
I hope this message finds you basking in the warm glow of your favorite reading nook, surrounded by stories that comfort and inspire you. Today, I am beyond thrilled to share a special piece of my heart with you, my latest novel, Charming the Grumpy Cowboy. Set against the sprawling beauty of the contemporary West, this story is more than just a romance. It's a family saga that weaves together the threads of love, redemption, and the unbreakable bonds that define us. It's a tale that promises to take you on a journey through the rugged landscape of both the land and the heart. And it continues on and on. So I told it in a sweet and uplifting tone because you can tell it what tone you want. Of course, in advanced course, I'd tell you how to teach it to do your tone. Um, it goes on and on. So sometimes what I do is I may have to tweak it a little bit. Like it may be repetitive. I find ChatGPT can be repetitive at times, but that's a great template for me to just take, twist, throw into my newsletter. On occasion, I get perfect ones out.
And then sometimes don't you have to like tweak the character a little bit and, just to make sure it's what you want it to be?
Yes, so you talk about the tone like in my voice. Is that what you mean?
The character, like it was describing the character, the cowboy.
Oh, okay.
His rough exterior and heart of gold.
Yes, you can change
Just to
all of
make
that.
sure. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I would take this out and either if I needed a lot of change, I do it right there in ChatGPT and say, so I'm going to see if this works. This is just off the top of my head. My heroine, can you redo the letter, including my heroine, my heroine, I'm going to name her Clara. I can't even remember her name. That's awful. Who walks with a cane and needs hip surgery, but wants to ride horses and just see what it does. And it just says, as the seasons change and bring new beginnings, I find myself filled with excitement and warmth, eager to share with you the latest bloom in my garden of stories. I would not use that because it's not my voice. Um, but what I would do is look down, meet Clara, our remarkable heroine whose resilience shines like a beacon, despite walking with a cane and facing the daunting tasks. And it just goes on about her. Now, I wouldn't use like a beacon because that's a cliche and I don't like cliches. So like I would change that. Enter our hero, a cowboy with a gruff exterior, masking a heart as vast and warm as the western skies. Now that actually fits my books. I might use it. He's the kind of man who's learned to shield his heart. Yet Clara's unwavering spirit and kindness sparked something in him he thought long buried. Together, they embark on a journey not just of love, but of transformation and healing, proving that the most profound connections arise from understanding and supporting each other's vulnerabilities. So you take what you want and you throw out what you don't. But it's all based on your parameters. So you tell it exactly what you want your letter to be about, it'll spit it out. Does that make sense?
How close do you feel like it gets to your voice?
When I train it in my private, it gets closer. I probably have very minimal. I'm sorry, just saw. I want to say, oh, your advanced cortiale. We need to find about this. Okay. Sorry. So, I find it gets a lot closer when you're training it in your own voice, and you're just tweaking it. When you use just general, you tell it what tone you want, and sometimes it goes over the top on that tone. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's a newsletter idea or a newsletter thing. What about marketing? Um, so on this prompt, I have, can you generate ideas for my sexy paranormal newsletter focusing on vampires and witches? So this is just an example of, I don't know what to write about. I don't have an idea. What kind of ideas can you give me? So it goes into character profiles. You can do things about mysterious origins, dive into the backgrounds of famous vampires and witches from literature, folklore, pop culture, on and on. Spotlight on romance, feature romantic or seductive tales involving a vampire and witch characters, emphasizing their complex relationships and magnetic appeal. Number two, paranormal romance reviews. You can review things like TV shows, mythology and folklore explorations. You can do vampire and witch lore or sexy spells and rituals, lifestyle features, fashion inspired by the night, interactive content, quizzes or reader stories. So when I went to launch my, I've been working on the Charming the Grumpy Cowboy, which is part of the Claiborne Ranch series, cousin series. I started off by doing a quiz or a vote in every single newsletter every Friday for a few months. And it got them really involved in the making of my story. They helped name the town, they helped name some of the characters, they decided on the tropes, all sorts of stuff. And it worked out really well. So I came here when I ran out of ideas and was like, what quiz can I do this week for my readers? And they generated an idea. So that was nice. Interviews and guest posts, event nightclub, a nightlife guide, moonlight gatherings, virtual realms, that kind of stuff, paranormal travel. So do you see how it just gave you a whole bunch of different ideas on what you could post about? And you can use any genre, anything you want, but that's what I use ChatGPT for is the idea generation, the brainstorming aspects. So let's see. I think this one
Here,
is,
I have a question. So
yes, ma'am.
is this something you would be blogging or how's that used in marketing?
That I would have used on my blog posts.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I actually mixed those two up. I'm trying to figure out which one's which on the left side because I had them in order. And then when I just did that extra one, it swapped the order around on me. Um, so here's an interesting one. Since I'm out of order, I'm just going to ignore my notes and go in order of this. I had a massive migraine on the eve of my book having to be uploaded. I include a recipe at the end of every single one of my books because I do a reader guide, a recipe, a reader letter, the whole nine yards, because my readers like to feel like I'm presenting them with things. So I put up, this isn't the one, I did this one last night, but I just said, can you develop a recipe to include in the back of my book, Charming the Grumpy Cowboy? And it spit out the cowboy beef stew. And that's in the back of my book with a few little tweaks that I chose just in case it took something off the internet and copied it. I tweaked it a little bit. But this one says sweet and savory cowboy casserole. It saved my bacon because I did not have the mental capacity to put anything in that book that night. So it was good.
I have another question.
Yes,
Uh, so is this book you're talking about indie published? Are these indie published books?
this one's indie published. Yes. I actually don't use my trad books in courses because I know I have a lot of contracts that are about to expire. And if I've got the indie books, I have more control. So I tend to focus on those. So, um, so here's an interesting prompt. I said, I'm creating a blog post. So this is for blog posting for historical romance. Can you please describe the clothes, including all undergarments and the tools they'd used for dressing in England in 1860s? And so it gives you all of this, what they wore in the outerwear, dressing tools and accessories, fabrics and materials, hair and makeup. And then you can always go double check your research. I just thought that was kind of an interesting blog post that you could include. Just saying, hey, here's everything that they might use in the 1860s if you're writing historical romance, Regency, or whatever you're doing, and readers would go to that.
How secure is ChatGPT?
So I would not upload an entire book to ChatGPT. This is my personal opinion because it can use your books to train. There's lawsuits all over the place, but what has really gotten down to is that they've won almost all of them, but that deals with images. So it's an interesting market. The laws aren't in place yet. So I would be a little cautious about putting your entire book on ChatGPT. However, AutoCrit I'd be more comfortable with, but I can't say that you should do that. But I'll explain why I did it for this class when we get to AutoCrit. But I think you do what you're most comfortable with until the laws are firmly established.
I meant censored. Like, does it avoid sexy content? Is it like Alexa where it tells you dirty jokes about actual dirt and soil?
Okay, so that is a good question. So yes, it does tend to have difficulties with certain things. What's funny is though I tested this, and one scene that I put in, it actually upped some of the vocabulary that I thought that it wouldn't accept. But when I put in the vocabulary, it wouldn't render a change. So their rules are a little funny. Does that make sense?
It does. I was just curious.
Yeah. So if you want to give me a prompt to try, I'm happy to do that.
Well, it's just you had undergarments, so it'd be, I was curious how the
Yeah, it just went into
would it give me crotchless underwear if I asked for modern currents, like it's that type of thing.
Yeah, I was like, that taught me something. I didn't know that. That's how they had all those frilly stuff. It was, I guess, ease of use. That's interesting.
Is there something you want me to try though? See if it works?
I don't really have anything in my
Okay.
head.
Yeah, and I mean, it may not be an extensive list either. You have to go do your research, but it's an idea generator. What was that?
What about something like when did crotchless undergarments become popular as a prompt? Or I guess crotchless panties.
And they have a long history that predates the era becoming, I mean, it does do a lot. I've heard people see, I don't write high sex scenes, so I haven't been able to put a scene in there. Like I will put a scene in there to improve it. And I'll show you in a second something I just hand wrote real quick that was dumb and I asked it to improve it. But some people tell me that erotic romance doesn't work in ChatGPT. I haven't tried that because I don't like to put anything in ChatGPT that I don't personally own. Just because I wouldn't want to use somebody else's, like some other author's work and put it into ChatGPT. So, let me see, epic fantasy bookmarking.
So it's proprietary then. So the stuff that you put in stays under Ciara Knight. It doesn't go to, if Leah bought ChatGPT, I wouldn't see any of your stuff, right?
No, you wouldn't see my stuff.
Yeah.
So let's say that you're new to marketing and you just want a place to start. So I put in here, as a marketing professional with over 20 years of book marketing experience, can you generate a solid marketing plan for an epic fantasy novel, Fallen Dragons, due to release April 23rd? So I'd go here and creating the marketing plan. It came up with band building and engagement, 2 ideas for that. Website and mailing list, gave us 2 ideas for that. Advanced reader copies, cover reveal and pre-order campaign, launch phase, release week, social media blitz, virtual book tour, launch event, post launch phase. And it just kind of goes through all that. So it gives you some ideas, and then you could dig down deeper if you would like to. Let's say I wanted to give out advanced reader copies to influencers. It will actually generate a letter to influencers for you. It'll give you ideas on how to contact influencers. Like you can ask it anything. So here's an example of, sorry, did somebody have a question? No, okay. So here's an idea I wanted to show you. So the first time I put something in, it came back worse because it was already an edited paragraph. So this I wrote as bad as I possibly could. I wrote, Taylor crouches by a fallen tree. A bark draws her attention. A puppy. Her puppy is trapped beneath the oak limbs. Her pulse quickens. Her mouth goes dry, despite the rain pelting down, chilling her. Can you improve this passage by adding active verbs, setting hits, and more sensory? So I told it exactly what I wanted in there, okay? Taylor crouches beside a fallen tree, its ancient limbs sprawled across the sodden earth like the fingers of a giant. The sharp bark of distress slices through the tumultuous symphony of the storm, ensnaring her attention. It's her puppy, ensnared beneath the gnarled embrace of the oak. And it goes on and on. So what I wanted to show you about this was I wouldn't necessarily take the improved paragraph. What I'd be doing is looking for a word choice. So relentless deluge might be something I would want to use. Or maybe I like its ancient limbs sprawled across the sodden earth as a hit of sensory. You would pick out what you found. Raindrops drum against the canopy of leaves. I'm not taking that paragraph. It's going to be repetitive and stale in a way, but I can pull out little things. So what I use this for is when I'm editing and I have a paragraph that I just cannot get right and I don't know why, I'll stick that paragraph in here and ask it to improve it. And it'll usually improve it, but I only take out maybe 4 or 5 words out of it. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Ciara, can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
In terms of editing, how do you see AI impacting the services that editors provide? Or is there no impact, do you think?
So, oh no, I think it's like anything. There's going to be some impact, but not what we think it's going to be. When I get to autocrit is what I use for my editing, but I wouldn't use that just for my editing. I'll explain how I use it and there's still a lot of AI limitations. Now, I do know that there are 2 women out there that are writing books with AI, but they are editing books because you cannot, at this time, generate a book from AI that is a quality product. I'm not going to say it's not sellable because anybody can sell anything on Amazon for a short time, but a quality product. However, when it comes to editing in autocrit, which we're about to get into, would you mind if I table your question until we get into autocrit and then I can show
Sure,
you?
yes.
Okay, good. And then ask it again if I don't cover what you're asking me, okay? But that was kind of the final thing. Oh, and I want to show you one last thing with ChatGPT, and then we're going to go on to autocorrect because I don't want to run out of time. Let's say you do TikTok and you don't have an image to use. You're going out there, you're finding an image, and you just need something. Can you generate an image of a male and female warrior in an embrace or a high fantasy romance on top of a castle with I'll just do that in a 9 by 16 format in vivid black and white. Let's see what it gives us. It's giving us two options. It's going to take a minute. This is why I did all the prompts ahead of time, but I did want to show you this one. Oh, and there's one more fun fact I have to show you, and then we'll go over to autocorrect. It's almost done. It's 2/3 of the way through.
So Ciara, when they give you an image, you own the image, you can use it?
You can use it on TikTok at this time, yes. And a matter of fact, I started using these images and my TikTok account went up. People are using them on social media all over the place because they're not owned by anybody. They're coming actually from DALL-E, DALL-E. But there's, at this time, I always say at this time, no, that one's a mess up because it's a sideways, but this one would be my choice. So it basically gave me what I wanted, right? But if I wanted to edit this image, I cannot in ChatGPT. A lot of authors will take their image and take it over to Canva and edit the image to what they want it to be. And again, I'm just showing you the possibilities with ChatGPT. I'm not telling you how to use it. I'm just showing you the options. So I personally use it on TikTok and it's helped my algorithms. A lot of people love these images. All right, so that is it for ChatGPT. Do you guys have any questions?
Doesn't ChatGPT also, the paid version, also have like the dolly? Can't you get to it from where ChatGPT was? Like, why did you do it in ChatGPT and not dolly?
Because it's easier because I'm already there and I can do everything through ChatGPT and I just found it very easy to use. So yeah, that's why I do that.
Okay.
Yeah, I've used it quite a bit for a lot of things like you said too, brainstorming. I hate writing blurbs and I'll just, write a really long description and then throw it in there and say, can you, generate a back cover blurb, in so many words and blah, blah, blah. And it's always, oh my God, the purple prose it's like, it's kind of ridiculous, some of what they write. But like you said, I go in and I pull out phrases. It's like, oh, yeah. I didn't do that word. So I found that I use it for that. I was writing a book and the guy had grown up in Greece and he was trying to describe it to the heroine. I've never been to Greece, so sure, I could go and do a lot of research, but ChatGPT, and I'm using the free version. And I went in and I said, can you give me a description of Greece, from somebody who's telling somebody else, blah, blah. And they gave me this thing and it sounded like a travel brochure or something. And I said, now could you rewrite that in a casual tone of voice? And it did that too. And again, then I didn't take word for word because, but again, I was able to pull out, never having been to Greece, I could go in and pull out the stuff that was in there and use it in my book. So it's great for doing research. I have a book about a deaf guy who has a lot of language deprivation and stuff like that. So again, go in, can you tell me what are the symptoms, what blah, 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 blah. So it is really great. I mean, I would never write a book with it, but it's so good and it gives you so much information and you just pull out what you want.
Yep. Yeah. And like you said, it's a lot of purple prose.
Yep.
It's written, but I'll even, I use it for tagline brainstorming. I'll put it in my blurb and ask it to do a tagline. I won't like it. I'll say, try again, but blah, 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 and then try again, but blah, blah. Because to me, taglines are so important that I want to get it just perfect.
And you
So,
can ask it to give me 10 taglines,
yeah,
so.
yes. And I've actually generated 20 taglines before and didn't like any of them, had to redo them.
Yeah.
So, but to me, I'm still saving time brainstorming with ChatGPT than doing it on my own. So, I just did this as a little bonus. I thought it was kind of fun. Can you generate a meal plan for 4 people? One doesn't like spaghetti, one doesn't like fish, but everyone loves chicken and pork and beef. So it generated this 7-day plan. And then I said, can you generate a shopping list based on the meals? And it'll generate your shopping list. So you can use it in everyday life too, is my point. So,
Ah,
all right. So I do want to make sure that we get to AutoCrit. I don't want to run over. So we use AutoCrit. It's an online editing interface. You upload your manuscript to AutoCrit's web-based editing interface. This allows you to access your draft from any device, but you have to copy and paste content back and forth from your main writing tool. This covers online editing interface, pacing analysis, and dialogue checks, which I'm going to show you. We're going to look at characterization, repeated words and phrases, readability score, and genre compatibility. Excuse my typos, I apologize. By the way, I'm severely dyslexic, so please forgive me for any typos. All right, pacing analysis. What I had done ahead of time, because it takes about 7 to 8 minutes, sometimes longer, to upload your manuscript. I actually uploaded my entire cowboy romance book in here as an example for you guys. And we're going to look at a few things. So, pacing and momentum. AutoCrit provides charts and metrics on the pacing of your story, highlighting areas that may be too fast or slow. This helps you better structure your story. You can look at everything from sentence variation. Tell me if my Zoom thing is, oh, I guess I can minimize that. Did it minimize it for you guys? So it's not on top of everything?
We can see it fine.
Okay. So what this does anybody here use AutoCrit? You'll have to say something. I can't see you right now.
no.
No.
Okay. All right. So in this story, it says romance average sentence length for a romance. When I had uploaded the story, I said, compare my book to romance. Okay. Because every genre is going to be slightly different. My average sentence length is 10.9. Theirs is 11.2. I'm right in there. There's no real warning signs there. For pacing, it does take a little bit of time in AutoCrit, so that's why I had to pick out certain things. So in this case, I've got to explain this in a diplomatic way. A lot of the stories that have been uploaded into the IA systems are more mature literature and not modern style writing. So I wouldn't want my score to be 139 because it's going to be more passive writing. It's going to be a little slower. So in this case, you actually, I only have 2.6 of my paragraphs are slow paced. It's 59 score, romance is 139. So, that's actually a good thing. Paragraph variation, you can look at how much your paragraphs vary so that you don't have the same sentence structure every single sentence. You can tell my average paragraph length is on target with regular romance. Do you have any questions on pacing? No? Okay. So dialogue checks is something else I like to do. The tool flags dialogue issues like too much or too little dialogue, unbalanced conversations, and repetitive speaker tags. This assists with improving character interactions. So I'll go look at dialogue and it'll tell me I'm 29 out of 28.8%. So if I wanted to, I'm still very close. If I wanted to, I'd come in here and really take a look at my dialogue to see if I needed to add or take away some dialogue. But it's 0.2%, so I probably wouldn't do that.
If you click on something, does it take you to that part in your manuscript?
Yes, it does. See?
Nice.
Dialogue tags. I don't use he said, she said, they said a lot. That's my style of writing. Everybody else might be different. So see, I have 154 and there is 438 on average. Others 88, 242. Remember, a lot of their work is still not modern enough. They're working on uploading more and more newer books. But, if let's say that I had a warning sign here for asked, I have 1 out of 82. I can go through and look at it and see if there's too many, because usually people have too many. Adverbs and dialogue. You can see if you have a lot of adverbs and dialogue. I have one. They have 82. I used quickly one time in dialogue. So, um, so that's dialogue. Any questions on dialogue? How you use that? No?
Yeah.
So strong writing, you can look at all your adverbs because I know all those pesky adverbs. Let me tell you, you're not supposed to write a book that doesn't have any adverbs in it, okay? It's impossible. What you want to do is make sure you're using active verbs where possible to up your attention and all of that. Again, older books, 921, I'm 298. I might go and look at a couple of these, though, to see if I could improve them at all. It says I have 3, which is an excess. They want to remove 2. So I might go in and look at that. Sometimes I'll go through these charts. None of these are, 50 or 10. That's when you want to really look at it. I probably should have uploaded a book that had a lot of problems, huh? Passive indicators is 176. They have 450. So you just go through, and if you see anything, I write very active voice, not passive, so you won't see a 450 score for me. But I was trying to find the one that actually isn't, you have to dig a little deeper. So I have could 235 times, remove 49. I will probably go in and look at that, but everything else is fine except for tasted. Well, I'm not going to bother with tasted. Remove about 1. It is a 75,000 word book. I don't think a reader is going to be like, oh, she used tasted twice. I mean, use your common sense with that. But I will go back and look at could. Cliches. I'm sorry, some of the cliches are not really cliches, so you need to go look at all of them. But the good thing about that is you do catch cliches that you've never thought of as a cliche. So it's a great way to detect those. Get lost is a cliche unless somebody says, I'm going to get lost. You know what I mean? So you've got to go in and check that to see what it is. Redundancies. You can go in here. I'm 15 out of 17. I might go look up, open up. Again, if this was a 25,000 word novella, I'd be more concerned, but a 75,000 word, probably not as big of a deal. Word choice. Actually, I'm going to skip that one. Sentence starters. I was looking for, repetition. I'm sorry, that's what I was looking for. Repetition, repeated words. All authors have a word that they repeat, and it might be different per book. So I always have a word. I had already gone in here. I can't remember what it was, but I had a word in here that was listed 28 times. So I had to go through and rework those. Most of these are 2, 1, 3. They've appeared. So I'm not really seeing anything that's like really astronomical, but I would probably still go through and make sure they're not in the same paragraph, the same page, anything like that. But they flag anything that's in here more than once. So football, I know that one of the characters is a football player. It's mentioned 4 times in 75,000 words. Not going to worry about that. But if I saw something like was or, should be or, something weak that had a lot, I'd go and look at that. Word frequency. Sorry, I know I'm almost out of time. Sorry.
Leave out words like the and.
Yes.
Okay.
So you'll look for things like that, but like there might be a case where, okay, so it's a family ranch, so you're going to see ranch a lot. I'm not going to remove 166 times I say ranch. Again, it's common sense with these. But I might cut that down. Um, but yeah, I'd go through and I'd look, especially for any weak words. So readability is interesting. You can do readability statistics. And so typically, um, the these are the scores of the reading level. I have books that say it's college level, and I have to go in and tame them down because I know they won't sell well. And then I have some that are third grade, and I go in and I fix them up. Does that make sense? It just depends on, you just know if I pull this book in and it's a rough draft, you're going to see high things like that. Then complex words, it tells you how many complex words you are. I it if you have a well-written book, it doesn't matter how many syllables you have per book, but I do look at this because if I had none, it would be like see spot run. Here's another interesting thing you can do. You can put your cursor at the end of a chapter and you can look at the inspiration, what happens next. And it will give you ideas. Unexpected twist, what most likely would happen, and what outlandish thing could happen. So if you were brainstorming a book, you could use that function in AutoCrit. And then, yeah, so I did this comparing to a romance novel. And when I went back, hold on, I apologize for this. If I go back to here, and it won't let me do it. Sorry, there is a way to do a fictional analysis, which is what I wanted to show you. Analysis. Here we go. Fictional analyzer. Did I show this to you guys yet?
No.
Okay, so I needed this done because it's a 12-book series. This saved me a ton of time. It goes through in every single chapter, it gives you a synopsis, all the conflict, the characters, who they are, world building, possible contradiction events, timeline analysis, foreshadowing events, plot thread tracking, and genre analysis. The reason I needed this was because I was working on book 2 and I couldn't remember something from book 1. Well, I just generated this and I can export it out to a Word doc. Now I can look up whatever I need through the synopsis, the plot lines, anything. So I really liked that. They also have a fictional analysis about premise, flick through lines, plot thread tracking, theme analysis, and genre conformity. So it can tell you how well you fit into the genre that you're looking at. So what's interesting is this book is a sweet contemporary Western romance cowboy family saga with a mystery theme through it. So it says this text best fits within contemporary romance due to its focus on developing romantic relationships against modern day challenges, including managing inheritance estates and navigating complex family dynamics, while incorporating elements like medical recovery narratives, enhancing realism and romantic arcs. And then it goes into some of the other conflicts about the nightmare and tragic. Like it warns you, this may not fit your genre. So, all right. So, in conclusion,
Leah,
and then
she,
we'll take
Leah, you gotta
questions.
do something.
I'm sorry?
I was telling Leah, she can't see you raise your hand.
Can I ask
Oh,
a question?
yeah.
So the difference in Chat GPT and AutoCrit, you have the whole book written and you upload it and then you make revisions. You don't sit in AutoCrit and start writing a book, correct?
You can do it either way. So like I showed you, you can use your cursor at the end of something and it'll generate ideas. So you can use that as brainstorming tool. I just don't upload a full chapter to ChatGPT. My personal feeling is it's not as
Sure.
secure. But they're different functionalities. Most of AutoCrit I'm using to analyze something in my writing. And then just brainstorming something if I need it within my writing. I use ChatGPT personally for all my marketing, my business, my idea generation, my, anything outside of my actual writing is what I use ChatGPT for. Did that answer your question?
It does. And so after you make these changes, kind of like I got Pro Writing 8 a while back and I don't love it, but you put it in there, then you hit change and it changes your document as it is. But with this, you have to re-download your document.
So no, you can upload it once and make changes in it. I actually don't like making edits in there, but that's me. I'm dyslexic, so I like Word because I can use dyslexic font, so I'm not prone to mistakes. So I will go into AutoCrit and pull out what I want to and put it into my document.
Okay, you put them side by side or something.
Yeah, a lot of times. And I don't really use AutoCrit for heavy editing. I hire editors. I use this to make my story better, to make sure that I'm not wasting editors' time on things that I can fix myself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And the word repeat would be the reason I need it because I have certain words that I just use and use and use. So yes, that's really good.
I use it also for a climactic scene or something that I want to spend a lot of time on. I have certain points in the book that I hyper focus on to make sure they are the best well-written scenes possible. And I may pull that in there because it's not quite working. And I'm like, okay, why is this not working well? Well, I'll look at the repetitive words, the weak words. A lot of times it's just that. Or I'll be like, okay, I see it in a different screen. I'm like, there's no setting here. Of course, I can always highlight it in Word and figure out what's missing, but sometimes it just takes looking at it from a different angle. So I use it for things like that too.
How
So,
much is AutoCrit?
um, I think I did a lifetime version for 160, I think. They offer specials all the time. So if I can, I'll have to ask them, but I actually run a Georgia Romance Writers Conference this year and last year, and I asked them, and they're going to give us a discount code. I will ask them if I can extend that to you guys if you'd like me to.
Sweet, yeah.
Okay, I will write that down to reach out to them. Because otherwise,
11 of us went to the conference last year, so I don't know how many are going this year to your
oh, well, we'd
conference.
love to have you back. It's at a location that is much smaller and more manageable for everybody, and we can have more time together. And it's nice. And breakfast is included with your room, and it's gonna be, and we have Dorinda Jones and Vicky Vale coming, and they're fantastic. So it's gonna be a conference worth
Is it
seeing.
in Atlanta? In
It is
Atlanta?
in Atlanta. It's in Norcross this year because we kind of hop
It's
around
a
a little bit.
it's a wonderful conference for anybody who had never been. Maggie and I usually go together,
Mhm.
Oh,
but it's
yay.
great.
Great.
Oh, and the workshop submissions this year were, yeah. Susan and I are fighting over who gets to go to what workshop right now. So
Are
last
you
year we
going
didn't
to
get to
do
go
an
to any.
advanced AI workshop? That's what we need.
I really wanted to, but because I'm running the conference, I can't. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't be willing to sit down with some people and go over it. If you guys are there, let me know.
But you
Okay.
said you teach it? Where do you teach it?
So I just designed the class and taught it to a couple of people as a test.
Oh,
And and so I don't teach until I test the classes. Um, but I'd spoken to somebody else who presented here and she was like, they're not going to want AI. You shouldn't do that. And I'm like, well, I'm going to try because I get two chances. So I'll do core magnetism and AI. So you'll have to let me know if you liked either or if you like both or one over the other. So I know what I should focus on with other people. So
I loved it. I'm fascinated with the AI, and if you need another tester, I'm volunteering right now.
great. I'm actually meeting with somebody who's the guru of AI, and she's going to talk to me some about a few things that I've tested, but I've heard some other things about, and I want to fact check before I teach, if that makes sense. So, but I do want to mention that some of the limitations, just remember AI is not human. Most of the stuff produced, as you saw, was either purple prose or stilted. It is not great at dialogue. Only as good as your prompt. AI does not understand nuances. That is a human thing, and the tone can vary. So those are the main things. So, but anyway, that was it for AI. I'm here for any questions as long as you would like. And I hope you found it
Thank you
helpful.
very much. Excellent.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, great. I love this.
Yeah, it's great. I have a question about as far as if you buy the chat GPT for $20, even if you do the free, is there training or like videos or
There's stuff on YouTube you can go look at.
okay.
There's everybody's hopping all over AI, so I know there are resources out there. I also put my email in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions. My best advice is to go in and play around with it first and then watch the videos.
Oh.
Just kind of think about what you want out of it. Like I said, one day I was like, okay, I need a recipe. And I just did that. It's just so you get used to it. I used basic prompts. There are prompts that are this long that are very hyper focused to help generate better responses. But I didn't want to overwhelm anybody with, huge chunks of data. So that would be an intermediate advanced class to get into the nuances of the products. So
This is a great introduction because I didn't know anything and now I understand a lot. So thank you.
oh, you're welcome.
This would be great for our September retreat
Well,
if she's available.
I know nothing about it, so somebody can reach out to me and let me know what the details are.
the problem is that the people at the retreat would be back to beginner level and us here, we're already intermediate, right?
Oh, we can always learn more.
Well, if you give 2 hours, I can do beginning, intermediate, advanced. So it would have to be the whole session. So, but I am taking my first vacation with my husband in 20 years alone at the end of August to beginning of September. So just know that if it's during that time, I'm unavailable or my husband has threatened to divorce me because I'm a workaholic. So I'm gone August 24th to September 4th, I think. So,
Oh, okay.
all right.
Well,
Any other
Are you
questions?
taking your laptop?
I might hide it, but probably not. My husband deserves the time. So, I work morning, noon, and night. So, and so does he. We work a lot. So, and we're about to be empty nesters. So we are figuring out how to move forward. So we decided to go on vacation together. So
well, safe travels and thank you very much for this.
thank you. You're more than welcome. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. I
Thank
appreciate it.
you.